Hello and welcome back to Firestone Forge. Today we're going to see about working on another hide. A while back I had attempted to dehair and deal with, process a deer hide that I had gotten last fall. Now I only filmed so much of that, and where I had left off, I needed to get a new tool to properly grain and remove the membrane. So I got this off of eBay. It was like 17 bucks, 20 something with shipping and everything else like that, and it's used by taxidermists. So it's got a bevel here. It's not sharp, but it's just enough to where it can give you a little bit of a edge to dig in. Now, the other hide I had worked on had ended up ripping and stuff like that, but I finally managed to get it processed into this. Now there are some holes, that's to be expected, and there's a few spots where I wore it a little too thin, but again, for a first try, that's not bad. And a gentleman I know who actually processes hides for a living, he was saying that hide would go for about 150 bucks. Now that's brain tanned. I went through the process by myself so that way I could get a better understanding of what I was doing, you know, not on the camera, so that way I would not feel under the gun and make so many mistakes. But that right there is a very good attempt. That, all I have to do is smoke it and it's done. I've got another hide here, another deer hide, that I had wanted to keep the hair on, but I didn't process it right. I used iodized salt off the get-go, and that caused the hair to slip. And I'd let it sit for months and months without any kind of attention at all. So this can't hold the hair. So I've let it soak for a couple of days, because this was rawhide. I let it soak for a couple of days, and now it's ready to be done. So we're going to set up, and then I'm going to show you how to remove the hair and the inner membrane, and then we'll move on from there. Stick around. Alright, so I apologize about the camera positioning. I'd prefer something a little bit better, but this is what I'm kind of working with. What I have here is, this is a piece of black PVC pipe. You could use it in irrigation. I think it's 4-inch. And what I did was I cut a 45-degree angle at both ends. Now, I've got one end kind of pushed up between my concrete sidewalk, and the other end is, of course, pushed up against this tree. Now what you do is you take the hide and you loop it over, okay, and you just kind of hold it there with pressure from your mid section. Like, just kind of, you could push up with your leg or your groin, whatever works, whatever's comfortable. And this is just one way of doing it. This is the way I'm currently doing it. You don't have to do it this way. Some people prefer to work on a post in front of them, like to shave down. So far, I've been enjoying shaving like this. It's just easy. It's about the right height. I'm not like bent over or nothing like that. It's just standing here pretty much. And I've got a drop cloth down so that way I can pick up all the hair that I shave off this, because it's going to be a substantial amount of hair. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, you'll notice, like, you see this? I don't think you can. I'm literally pulling the hair away with the palm of my hand. Okay? Now, that's unfortunate because I really did want to keep the hair. But that's okay, because I learned something. I learned what not to do for the next time. So, all I got to do at this point is just manually remove as many chunks of hair as I can, and then we'll remove the grain underneath, the epidermis. So I'm just going to keep on working on this. Now another little trick is if you've got, like, you can use a draw knife for woodworking. You want to use like the backside of the blade, nothing sharp, but watch this. It's using the backside, the sharp side's over there. Can you see this? That's just using the back side of the blade. Now, mind you, this has not been I have not put this in a lye solution or anything. This has just been sitting in water. But because it's been so warm out, I suspect that has something to play with it. Two, I've left it soaking in water, and I added a lot of like pickling salt, because I had heard that would keep the hair on. So the first couple of baths I had made for this thing were with pickling salt and canning and pickling salt, and you know, kind of hoping to keep the hair on there. But when I pulled this out the other day to just kind of check on it, handfuls of the hair fell right out, and it was because I had left it for too long with the iodized salt on it. Apparently, you want to start, if you're going to keep the hair on it, you're going to want to start working it real quick, and if you're going to let it soak, you're going to want to let it soak in non-iodized salt. So I didn't know that when I preserved it. So if I would have, I wouldn't have done it with salt, like that kind of salt. So just if you do it right, or make a mistake and you wanted to keep the hair on, like I did, you might get lucky, and even though the hair is falling out, it'll fall out real easy. So we're going to get this part done, and then I'm going to start showing you how to do the membrane. So if you look, I have the knife the right way. If you can watch while I'm doing this. Now you see this. You can see every time I pull it across there. Now the underneath, it feels a little bit grainy, a little gritty. This is soft and smooth. Let me see. Alright, I'm not sure if this is going to work because I'm setting the camera up kind of funky, but let's see. So right here, you can see where I've grained. This is all ungrained. You see the strips coming off of there? You want to make sure your knife stays clean. Now, I want to note that because this tree is kind of nubbly, the bark is not even, I don't want to push too hard on the post, or otherwise it'll actually cause that pattern to kind of embed into the leather. Now, it won't necessarily damage the leather. Unless I really crank down, it might pop a hole. But be aware and pay attention to what you're using tools-wise, what natural resources you have available. When you need to, reposition. Reposition the area that you're working on, because I like to have the spot that I'm working like around the center of the beam, maybe just a little bit to this side, because then I can work around this way. You want to have a good working stroke that's comfortable. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can just kind of grab the epidermis and pull, and it'll just come off. When you get to the edges of the hide, it's usually a little thinner. You want to be careful not to go too deep, but at the same time you still want that epidermis off. So go carefully, and if there are any holes, same thing when you're removing the hair, if there are any holes, work slowly and carefully so as not to rip them and make them bigger. See? I just got this big old hunk off the end. So, and also you'll notice once you've got a part grained, it will dry out a lot faster. So you're going to want to possibly keep a tub of water near you so that way you can, wet the thing from time to time. You'll also begin to notice a color difference too. Like this is kind of tan, this is white. Okay, see this right here? There's still epidermis on there. I want to get it off. Okay, just epidermis, and you can feel it too. Okay. Large chunks, very elastic. Right here, okay, especially like right across there, right down here. That's a bunch of scars. What's that from? I don't know, but I can guarantee that the grain, the membrane, is going to act a little bit differently there. You can't treat it like every other spot. See? It's causing the knife to jump a little bit. So you just kind of slow down. When you get closer to these end pieces, down near the edge, you want to work it well, but evenly. Because the skin is thicker, or thinner. The skin is thinner. But you also don't want to go in too much. And if you're near a hole, like there, here, if you dig in too much, it'll cause that to rip. Now you see like how the dermis is right there, epidermis? Just kind of pop it. And there you go. Just keep on going. Once you've fleshed and removed the grain from the front side, you want to move back to the inside. There's a membrane that holds the hide to the connective tissue, the muscle and whatnot. You want to help remove that. And it's real simple. It's, again, same kind of scraping. It's a lot easier to remove this one than it is the grain on the hair side, the epidermis. This comes off a lot easier. You don't have to dig at it too much at all. I've almost completely done this hide. I'm just finishing off the last little bits here around the edges. Now, you'll also notice, at least I noticed this on my first hide, is that there was a couple of spots where I thought I had got it well. I thought I had removed both the grain and the membrane well, but what ended up happening was when I soaked the hide to kind of let it start to, well, I soaked it and then I broke it, let it dry slowly, and then I, worked it over a post. There was a few areas that took a lot longer to dry, and that was at the head end and the tail end, because there was still a little bit of membrane on it, and it became a point where I actually had to regrain those areas, and then it dried up a lot better. It took a couple of tries to get it figured out, but this time around it seems to be a lot easier. So, and you see that right there? That's drying, and also it's been against the pressure of the tree here, so it'll be fine. But that's already starting to rawhide, and you know, you see how the hide is turning dark in some areas, and then you just kind of stretch it and it turns white again. That's basically one of the principles of breaking the hide. When it starts to dry, you work it over a point or a stump, and it makes it so that way the tissue, the fibers, instead of locking and being very tight, it actually causes them to relax, and there's a little bit of space that makes them more pliable. As well as when you brain tan it, the solution will penetrate deeper into the fibers and make it that much more pliable. It's just little things, you know. It's every little small piece makes the whole. So I'm almost done here. Thanks for watching. Now this stage here has just been the dehairing and removing the grain and the membrane underneath. Now there's other stages to come. I'm actually going to continue to soak this in a brine solution, so that way I can try and get any more little membrane off. I'm going to end up working this again tomorrow after I get off work, and then I'm going to break it. I'm going to let it slowly dry. I'm going to pull it out of the solution. I'm going to make sure that everything's gone, all the little bits and bobs, all the last little bits of epidermis, and I'm going to slowly work it over a post. My setup isn't exactly the greatest, but it will work. So I'm going to end up working it over a post, and as it slowly dries, the fibers, which if I just let it sit, turn into rawhide. The fibers mesh real tight. But if you break it or move it over something while it's drying, the fibers will become loose, and there will be space in between them. So when I go to brain tan this thing, there will be no moisture in it at all. So when I put it in the solution or rub the solution on it, it'll penetrate right into those holes of the fibers. It'll make it very soft, very supple, and we'll wring it out and brain tan it 2 or 3 more times just to make sure that it fully penetrates the whole hide, because you don't want any little bits. Once I reach that point, I'll end up working it over a pumice stone to kind of remove anything else, any last little bits of epidermis or any impurities or whatever that could be left on, little bits of membrane. I mean, it's kind of a visual process. As you go, you'll see it pull away, and you just kind of follow it. And I've tried to show that here in the video, and I hope that I've done well, showing that you can see how it goes. Just kind of pay attention to the hide and listen to what it tells you. Every little scar, every little nick, every little mark tells a story, and it tells you how it needs to be worked. Or so that's what I'm kind of getting while doing this. I don't know how else to put it, really. So we're going to get this thing soaking again, and then tomorrow or the next day, whenever's available, between work and real life and everything, we'll try and get this thing finished up. So thanks for watching. I'll check you guys next time for the next step.